Hey, my name's Amanda, and I'm from Alaska. I don't have much time to write this, so I'll jump right into the juicy stuff. A brick came loose from the wall. I watched it shatter and knew that would be my skull if I wasn't careful. I knew cutting my hair was a bad idea. I could be pulling a Rapunzel right now. Wait, this doesn't make any sense. Do you want to know how I ended up escaping a tower? Then stick around. I never excelled at school. I used to take naps in class, and one time I even snuck out the window to go get food. Those were the days. But one day, I got called into the principal's office. "I won't lie to you, Amanda. Your grades are horrific," he said with furrowed brows. "I'm assigning you a tutor." Before I could protest, he shoved me out of his office. Not that I wanted to stay in there any longer, it always smelled like cheese. Later that day, I sat in the school library waiting for my tutor to show up. I didn't even notice him when he arrived. He was as quiet as a mouse.
"Hey, how's it going? I'm Michael."
He flashed me a dashing smile. He was kind of good looking, but not exactly my type. "Hi."
"Where's your pens and books?"
"I don't have any."
"What?"
Then he stood up out of nowhere and grabbed my hand. He dragged me into his car, and suddenly we were strutting up to a huge school supply store. When we walked in, Michael swept his arms around the whole store.
"It's all yours."
"Huh?"
"I booked this store for the day. Whatever you want, take it. My treat."
Sure enough, I looked around and saw the whole place was empty. Was this guy for real? I shrugged, then headed off into the store. I must have filled 3 shopping carts with random school supplies. I felt so cool, like a VIP. This must be what celebrities feel like. I was in awe.
"You liked it?"
I loved it.
"Good to know."
Michael paid for all my stuff, and we went back to school to study. He started showering me with gifts after that. I pretty much became his dress-up doll, but I wasn't complaining. I loved getting showered with gifts. Besides, my parents would never buy me all this expensive stuff. They weren't even around. They had been gone for 2 whole days. We got kicked out of the library when school closed.
"How about we continue at my place? It's more comfortable than this dump anyways."
I said sure, and Michael took my hand. To my surprise, he led me to a dirty alley behind the school. He pulled out his phone and put in some sort of code. Suddenly, the huge pile of trash in front of us slid to the side, revealing a trap door. Michael opened it and jumped in. I followed suit. The little room we were in looked like the back of a limo, super luxurious. I heard this whirring sound, then I felt like we were moving, but at the same time not. The roof opened up and Michael climbed out. He helped me out and I almost passed out from what I saw in front of me. We were transported somewhere else, far from school. "You live in a mansion?"
"Yeah, pretty cool, huh?"
A man and a woman in uniform ran out and grabbed our bags. Michael tossed them his keys and gave me a tour of his huge mansion. "How'd you get the money for this place?"
"Well, I know my way around the internet, and some powerful people would rather keep me rich and quiet than poor and talkative, if you know what I mean."
He winked at me. "What's in there?" I pointed at a tiny door with a huge lock on it.
"Don't worry about it, sweetheart."
I cringed when he called me that. "Should we get to work?"
Let's eat first."
Michael grabbed my hand again. He did that a lot, now that I think of it. I should have known. We walked outside. The sight in front of me was beautiful. There was a gazebo with a candlelit dinner. Michael sat down and asked the lady servant,
"What's on the menu, Mom?"
I thought it was a bit weird that his mom and dad were acting like servants. Man, I should have ran out there and then, but I didn't. Can we go study now?
Fine.
We walked back indoors, and behind huge wooden doors was the biggest library I had ever seen. It was straight out of a fairy tale. We only studied for like 15 minutes before Michael suggested we take a break. He grabbed my hand. Again. Yuck. He pulled me into a gigantic room. It was a ballroom with chandeliers and all of that fancy stuff. The male servant that I assumed was his dad was sitting at a grand piano. He started playing swiftly when we walked in.
"Dance with me."
Michael tried to swing me around, but I didn't cooperate. He tried again and again. It was suffocating. "I don't want to dance. Get off me." I shoved him away. The look on his face changed completely. There was rage in his eyes.
"Why do you have to be so difficult? Why can't you just love me?"
he yelled. I backed away in fear. He saw this and changed back into his normal self in less than a second. Creepy.
"It's getting late. Why don't you get some rest and we'll continue tomorrow?"
Can't I just go home?
"No, we should start early tomorrow, so just sleep here."
He snapped his fingers and his mom came in. He gestured at me to follow her and led me to a bedroom bigger than my entire apartment. I fell asleep as soon as my head hit the pillow, like something on it had made me pass out. I woke up all of a sudden and looked around. I wasn't in the luxurious bedroom anymore. I was in this tiny, dark room. I ran to the only window. I almost passed out when I saw I was 70 feet in the air. A tower? Seriously? How rich is this psychopath? There was a knock on the door and Michael walked in holding a candlestick.
"I'm not a bad guy. I just know better than you, Amanda. You will stay here until you realize I'm the perfect man for you."
You do realize this is real life, right? You can't do this to me. People will wonder where I am. He cackled and said,
"Please, not even your parents care what happens to you."
What is that supposed to mean?
"How much do you think I had to pay them to leave?
My stomach dropped. They fully left me? It wasn't just for 2 days? They weren't coming back? You're lying.
I'm the only person on this planet that cares about you. Here, I'll let you see for yourself."
He put the candlestick down and left, locking the door behind him. I grabbed the candlestick but almost dropped it in shock immediately. The walls were covered from floor to ceiling in pictures. Pictures of me. Sleeping, eating, shopping. There wasn't an activity he hadn't taken pictures of. He was obsessed with me. I needed to get out of there. I climbed out the window and onto the roof. I was terrible at regular school, but I was the best at PE, and the rock wall was my favorite. I began climbing down the side of the tower. A brick came loose from the wall. I watched it shatter and knew that would be my skull if I wasn't careful. I knew cutting my hair was a bad idea. I could be pulling a Rapunzel right now. When I reached the ground, my troubles weren't over. You've got to be kidding me. A moat? The moat was too wide for me to jump over. I needed something to boost myself in the middle. I hope that's the reason why I wasn't scared when a crocodile suddenly swam to the surface and looked at me. If that's not why, I'm concerned for my mental health. The crocodile was my way out. I grabbed a piece of the fallen brick and chucked it to the other side of the moat. The crocodile turned around and attacked the brick, which was my window. I took a deep breath and jumped right onto its back. Then I boosted myself and jumped to safety on the other side. I always loved parkour. I ran into the thick forest surrounding Michael's property. Suddenly, I heard a whoosh, and something hit the tree right next to my head. Tranquilizer darts!
"You can't run forever, Amanda,"
I heard over a megaphone. Somehow, I kept running until my legs burned. I ran for days. I hunted squirrels and learned to catch fish with my bare hands. I heard howling at night, so I climbed up trees to sleep. After weeks, when my clothes were full of mud and I had bug bites and rashes, I finally found a safe place. There was an abandoned cabin in a clearing right next to a huge river. I had a feeling Michael would find me eventually, so I used everything in the cabin to prepare for the day he did. I woke up one night to a voice over a megaphone saying,
"I found you. Come out now."
I strutted outside confidently. Michael stood there with a team of guards. "You did manage to teach me something," I laughed. Michael looked so annoyed at the moat I had made around the cabin. It was easy to make. I just diverted the river nearby. Piece of cake.
"Get over here. I'm taking you home."
"I refuse to be your prisoner," I yelled.
"You'll learn to love me."
"Leave me alone. I don't want you in my life." Michael refused to leave. He knew I'd bolt the second he was out of sight. I walked back into the cabin and returned holding a box of matches. "You see how the cabin is wet, but it hasn't rained in days?" I lit a match and gestured at my little island.
What are you doing? Put those away."
"I don't ever want to see you again," I said. "This way, I won't have to." Michael screamed,
"No!"
as I dropped the match and lit the gasoline surrounding my cabin. I wonder if the previous owner had something like this in mind, because seriously, there were barrels of gasoline in the basement.
"Amanda, my love, no!"
As he cried for me, I snuck back into the cabin. The plan worked. I had faked my death successfully. I hope. I ran into the basement and pushed a barrel aside. I crawled into the tunnel hidden underneath, holding my makeshift sled under my arm. The moat wasn't the only thing I used the river for. I had made myself a little underground river inspired by Michael's transportation system between school and the mansion. Neat, huh? Soon enough, I reached the end of my tunnel. I climbed up the little cave and inhaled the cool night breeze. Freedom! Just as the map in my cabin said, I was across the border. I could have escaped earlier, but I needed Michael to think I was dead. He is a powerful hacker, but even he can't find a ghost. I still avoid electronics because, believe me, he sees everything.
Ah! I screamed as a slushie ran down my hair and into my clothes. I spun around and Cassie laughed as she kissed Ryan lightly on his lips. Did you really think Ryan was willing to go out with a girl like you? Delusional! Cassie scoffed as she made the L sign on her forehead. It was a dare. Nothing more, nothing less. Ryan and I come from the same world. Wealth. You will never be one of us, nor will you ever fit into our world, no matter how hard you try. I was about to attack Cassie when Deandra, my best friend, held me back. She's not worth it. You better listen to your friend. Come on, Ryan. Let's get out of here. I watched as my arch nemesis and my crush walked away hand in hand. You're probably wondering how I got here. Well, keep watching my story and I'll explain to you. The weekend before my millionth encounter with Cassie, I went on a date with Ryan, who was Cassie's ex at the time. Ever since I saw Ryan on campus, I had a major crush on him. So why wouldn't I go out on a date with him when he asked? Everything went great with our date, until it was time to pay. He made me believe he forgot his wallet in the car, and I spent the rest of the night washing dishes until my fingers were blistered. I told you to stay away from Ryan, Deandra said as she picked slushie out of my hair in the bathroom mirror. I turned to Deandra. Is it a bad thing that I still have a crush on him? It's not a bad thing, but I wouldn't act on it. Ryan is a sleazeball, and you need someone that's all about you, Phoebe. You're right. I do need someone who is all about me, not some self-centered football jock. As I walked out of the bathroom with Deandra, I had to admit that a little piece of my heart still wanted Ryan. During the week, I saw Ryan and Cassie in my classes and smiled at them as though they were friends. Deandra told me I was crazy, but what can I say? I just couldn't hold a grudge. About 2 weeks later, Ryan walked through the campus with a beanie on his head. Deandra nudged me. What do you think happened there? What do you mean? With Ryan's hair. He loves his hair as much as he loves football. There's no way he'd just cover that up. Deandra was right. Something was up. During class, Mr. Rivers told Ryan to remove his beanie. But sir, what does my headwear have to do with whether I learn or not? No headgear in my class, Mr. Felix. Take it off or get out. If you leave, don't come back for the rest of the semester. Ryan slowly removed the beanie from his head. His head was bald. There was a moment of silence before the students roared with laughter. Quiet down, quiet down. Let's get back to work. During class, snickering was still heard and people threw spitballs at Ryan's head. I couldn't help but feel sorry for him. As soon as class was over, Ryan placed his beanie on his head and exited the classroom. By the time Deandra and I got into the hallway, Cassie and Ryan were having a heated discussion. I guess Cassie doesn't like her guys bald. Deandra smirked. One of the guys ran over to Ryan, snatched his beanie from his head and ran. Cassie screamed at him. It's over between us! Over! When she stormed off, I walked over to Ryan even though Deandra tried to stop me. Hey, Ryan. What do you want? I pulled out a hat from my bag. This is my dad's lucky hat. I carry it as a reminder to appreciate him every day. You can use it if you'd like. Ryan took the hat. Thanks. I'm here if you need to talk. I turned to walk away when he held my hand. Thanks. You didn't need to do this. There was an incident at the barbershop, and instead of mousse, hair remover was used on my head. I'm sorry about that, but you do know hair grows back. I smiled. He twitched nervously. I'd like to apologize for how I treated you at the restaurant. You didn't deserve it. I know I didn't. Deandra waved me over. Look, I've got to go, but we'll see each other around, okay? Sure thing. I walked briskly to where Deandra waited for me. Are you crazy? Why are you being nice to him after everything he's put you through? Looked over at Ryan. I don't think he's a bad guy, just around the wrong people. The next week, Ryan showed up to classes with shades and a scarf wrapped around his mouth with a beanie. If it wasn't for his football jacket, I wouldn't have known it was him. During lunch break, he walked over to Deandra and I.
Hi. Phoebe, may I speak with you, please?
Sure. Deandra rolled her eyes at me. I walked with Ryan to the covered bleachers where we sat. He removed the shades and the scarf. His skin was red and blotchy. What happened?
I'm not sure. I used my acne cream last night and woke up like a freakazoid.
Did you go to the doctor? I don't think covering it up is going to help.
I have an appointment this afternoon. I can't walk around campus looking like this. Do you think someone is out to get me?
I laughed. No one is out to get you. Things like this happen to normal people all the time.
Things like this never happen to me.
Maybe karma is trying to tell you something.
Maybe it is.
Ryan and I began to hang out more on and off campus despite Deandra's warning to stay away from him. Over the news one Friday night, a report came over the news about a brawl with college students after a football match. The reporter said that a few of the students were taken to hospital. That weekend, I tried to call Ryan numerous times, but his phone went straight to voicemail. A week later, Ryan showed up at college. He was kicked off the football team, and he had a chipped tooth and glasses. I've been worried sick about you. I caressed his face.
I guess you heard about the fight.
I've been trying to call you. What happened to your phone?
I lost my phone during the fight.
I'd say you lost more than that. A few days later, while Deandra and I were coming from Joe's, we decided to go into the mini shop to get a box of dye.
Which color do you think I should get? I haven't tried pink yet.
Just as we opened the door to enter the mini mart, someone pushed past us and ran out.
Stop him! Thief!
The shop owner ran past us. Did you see that? Deandra asked as we closed the door behind us. What? His jacket! That was Ryan's jacket? I froze. Are you sure? Yes. The name at the back said Felix. I don't think he'd be so stupid to rob a store with a jacket with his name on it. Either way, I'm telling the owner when he walks back in. True to her word, Deandra told the store owner what she saw when he returned. He called the police a few minutes later. Deandra and the owner gave the police their statements. When the police left, I turned to Deandra. Do you hate Ryan so much that you'd speak to the police without speaking to him first? I'll catch up with you later. I exited the shop and walked the rest of the way home alone. Around midnight, I received a text from Ryan after I tried to contact him earlier that afternoon, but to no avail.
I just got home. I was at the police station. Something about a robbery.
I know. That's why I was trying to call you.
How did you know?
Deandra and I saw when the guy ran out the store with your jacket on. I told Deandra we should have called you first, but she didn't listen. I'm so sorry this happened. My voice cracked as I wiped the tears from my eyes.
It's not your fault, Phoebe. Please don't cry. I'll call you a bit later. I'm exhausted.
Okay. Over the next few weeks, Ryan and I drifted apart and I was saddened by it, until one afternoon he approached me.
Hey, I'm sorry I've been so distant. I needed time to think.
It's okay. I understand. He held my hand.
Over the past few months, I got to see what my friends really thought about me. It was a real eye-opener, and you were the only person who stuck with me through it all. Phoebe, I'd like to take you out on a real date, and then maybe head down to Coney Island. I know you always wanted to go.
My eyes lit up. Sure, I'd love that.
Great. I'll pick you up Saturday around 6 p.m.
Ryan kissed me on my lips and walked away. When he moved, there stood Deandra with her hands on her hips.
What was that about?
Ryan asked me out on a date. Deandra sighed. You really love him, don't you? I nodded. Fine, then I won't stand in your way of happiness. Thank you. I hugged Deandra. Let's go to the mall Saturday and get you a cute outfit.
Don't forget to check his pants this time to make sure he has his wallet.
I chuckled. Saturday night, Ryan was the perfect gentleman. He came to my door with flowers and met Dad before we went out. At the restaurant, he ensured we got the best service and the best table. He also left a hefty tip. Once at Coney Island, we rode a few rides and Ryan won me a few stuffed toys.
How about we go to the Haunted Mansion?
Ryan said. I'm not sure that I want to get scared out of my wits.
He squeezed my hand gently. Don't worry, I won't let anything happen to you. I sighed heavily, then smiled. Okay, let's go. We got to the haunted mansion. I thought there'd be a crowd here. Ryan paid the guy at the entrance. Tonight's a special night, just for couples. Ryan and I entered the haunted mansion. I squeezed Ryan's hand and screamed as spiders and zombies popped out at us. When we almost came to the end, I pushed Ryan against the wall and someone held his hands in place through the holes in the wall. I kissed him and then smiled. I have a confession. I passed my hand along his jawline. The reason why all of this happened to you was because I made it happen. What? Do you know how easy it was to pay off your friends to change your acne cream? Or pay your barber to use hair remover on your head? I had someone steal your jacket and rob the shop. The fight after the football game wasn't me, but it sure helped with what I was aiming for. You see, guys like you don't stop until you are put down. And having access to your phone and the numerous girls' hearts you've broken just this year alone? Well, this makes for the grand finale. I step back. Okay, girls, you can have him. Every girl that Ryan ever mistreated stepped out from the shadows. I walked out of the haunted mansion and handed the guy at the entrance a wad of cash, as promised. He tipped his hat and put up a close sign at the entrance of the haunted mansion. What do you mean he just left? Deandra asked the next day. Just what I said. He got a call and he needed to leave. I fixed my outfit in the school's bathroom mirror. Suddenly, Cassie burst into the bathroom and pointed her finger at me. What did you do? Ryan is at the hospital, and the only name he's been calling in and out of consciousness is yours. Cassie, what do you mean Ryan is at the hospital? What happened? Deandra stood between Cassie and I. He was found in Victoria Square early this morning, badly beaten. And how is that Phoebe's fault? Why else is he calling her name? Maybe, I tilted my head slightly, because he loves me now and not you. I caught Cassie's hand midway as she attempted to slap me across the face. I stepped into her, my eyes dark. If you don't want to lose your hand, I suggest that you keep them to yourself. I dropped Cassie's hand and turned to Deandra. Let's skip class and head over to the hospital. Deandra nodded and followed me out of the bathroom. Sometimes people don't need kindness. Sometimes they need a dose of their own medicine.
I opened my eyes and looked around me. I had no idea where on earth I was, but I knew that wherever I was, it was a dangerous place to be. Help! Help! Let me out of here! Suddenly, I stopped screaming. I thought I had heard a noise. Yes, there it was again. Is there someone there? Can you hear me? A door burst open and 5 girls came into the room. I recognized them immediately. They were the popular girls from school. My heart sank as one by one, they all began to smile evilly at me. This story is pretty shocking, but what you will find out at the end will blow your mind. I suppose I'd better start at the beginning, so you'll understand the full story. I was in class one Monday morning and I was feeling really nervous. You see, today was different to most Mondays, because this morning, my sister had helped me to get ready for school. She had done my hair up nice and chosen some pretty clothes for me to wear, a kind of mini makeover. The reason she had helped me because it was my birthday. It was her present to me. The boys will be all over you when they see you looking this good. Ew, gross. I was the first student in class. I sat there waiting, wondering if anyone would even notice my changed look. But as the other students came in, one by one, it was quite obvious that they could see the difference in me. Every boy just stared at me in shock. You see, when I say makeover, I mean a makeover, like total transformation. I used to wear these massive square glasses, and my hair was always smelly and wiry. There were even times when I could find some random piece of paper or twig in my hair. And my clothes were always gray, the most simple, plain things I could find to put on. Usually they were stained too. But my sister helped change all that, So to the boys in class, it was like I was a totally different person. But even though I knew I looked different, I wasn't expecting to receive any compliments. But I was wrong. Hey, Lucy, is that really you? You look amazing.
Wow, you look so different. I love your hair.
I wasn't used to anyone saying anything nice about my appearance, so I immediately started blushing. But my happiness soon turned into fear when I saw the popular girls entering the classroom. There were 5 of them, and they went everywhere together. I called them the Chihuahuas, because their voices sound all high-pitched and annoying. For a minute, I thought they weren't going to notice me, but then one of them caught my eye.
Well, what do we have here? Is little old Lucy coming out of her shell?
I tried just to ignore them, hoping they would leave me alone, but they just kept on picking on me.
You must have spent hours this morning getting ready for school. I bet you think you look pretty, don't you?
I was about to answer when one of the boys jumped in to defend me. Hey, stop being mean. Lucy looks great. Leave her alone. I blushed again. I'm serious. Just get off her case, okay? The popular girls scowled at me, but they did as the boy said and went and sat down at the back of the classroom. When I got home from school that day, I told my mom all about what had happened. They were so mean to me, Mom. I was so embarrassed.
Just ignore them, darling. It's so obvious they're jealous of you.
I guess you're right. If I see them tomorrow, I'll just stay out of their way.
That's probably a good idea. They'll soon get used to your new look and leave you alone.
But when I woke up the next morning, I wasn't so sure. I think I'll tone down things a bit today. I don't want to draw any more attention to myself. So that day, I just wore some simple jeans and a shirt, no makeup. But I did wear my new glasses, and of course, my hair still looked good. When I arrived at school, I was hoping to blend into the background, hoping that no one would notice me. But it wasn't to be. Just like the day before, all the boys came flocking around me, paying me compliments again. You really do look amazing, Lucy. I glanced at the boy and smiled. Thank you. Look, I've been wanting to ask you something for ages. What? Would you like to go out with me? What, on a date? Yes, I mean, if you want to. My heart skipped a beat. I couldn't believe the good-looking boy wanted to take me out. But before I had a chance to say yes, the Chihuahuas appeared out of nowhere.
Wow, what do we have here? Isn't it the ugly duckling?
Yeah, but she thinks she's turned into a swan.
Leave her alone. You girls are only jealous of her. She's 10 times prettier than any of you and 100 times nicer. The Chihuahuas looked at me with hatred on their faces. I could see that they were humiliated.
You'll rue this day. Mark my words.
Fear crept through my body. There was something evil in the way she had said those words that made me convinced she was going to seek some sort of revenge. Don't listen to her. I won't let anything happen to you. I smiled at the boy, but inside, I was still afraid. That afternoon, I was walking home from school thinking about the events of the day when a car suddenly screeched to a stop in front of me. Before I had time to realize what was going on, someone had jumped out and put a sack over my head. Ah! Help! Help! But no one heard my muffled screams. The next thing I knew, I was being bundled into the car and driven off. I don't know if it was from the fear or if they'd actually knocked me on my head, but suddenly everything went black and I passed out. I opened my eyes and looked around me. I had no idea where on earth I was, but I knew that wherever I was, it was a dangerous place to be. Help! Help! Let me out of here! Suddenly, I stopped screaming. I thought I had heard a noise. Yes, there it was again. Is there someone there? Can you hear me? A door burst open and 5 girls came into the room. I recognized them immediately. They were the popular girls from school. My heart sank as one by one, they all began to smile evilly at me. Let me go! I demand that you untie me and let me go! But instead of undoing the ropes around my wrists, they just stood there laughing at me. What are you going to do with me? They all smiled at me evilly. We're going to make sure you're never seen again. I was absolutely petrified. My hands started shaking and I wanted to cry. Suddenly, the door flew open and, to my surprise, my mom came flying in. But it wasn't just that my mom was there that surprised me. It was the fact that she was wearing a ninja outfit. I watched in shock as my mom began throwing kicks and punches left, right, and center. One by one, she knocked each of the chihuahuas to the floor. They didn't stand a chance against my mom. Once they were all out cold, my mom ran over to me and undid the ropes, setting me free. Oh, Mom, I thought they were going to kill me. Don't worry, darling, I'm here now. They're never going to hurt you again, I promise. My mom was right. After she told the police what they'd done to me, they were all arrested and sent to jail. But that was a long time ago. I'm a lot older now. I'm married and I have a family of my own. In fact, you'll be pleased to know that I ended up marrying the boy that had asked me out on a date at school. Life seemed good. I thought I would never hear from the Chihuahuas again, but I was wrong. It was summertime and we were on holidays. I was sitting at the hotel poolside when all of a sudden, I saw the 5 of them at the other side of the pool. My heart turned cold when I realized it was them. They all looked older, but it was definitely them. I turned to my husband. Look, it's the Chihuahuas. They're over there. Don't be silly. But when my husband turned to see who I was pointing at, he stopped mid-sentence. Oh my God, you're right. I'm calling the police. I turned to see where my children were, but one of them was missing. That's when I heard her scream. Mommy! I looked over and I saw that the Chihuahuas had a hold of my daughter. You stay here with Daniel, I'm going to take care of the Chihuahuas. I ran after them and caught hold of my daughter's hand. The Chihuahuas surrounded me and started laughing. Oh, little Lucy, what are you going to do? There's no mama to protect you now, is there? You're all crazy. Maybe, but at least we're popular. Now, prepare to die. But this time, I wasn't afraid. I looked at them and smirked. Good luck with that. You see, after our little ordeal, I made sure to take a karate class. I took up a fighting stance. And guess what? I'm a black belt. The Chihuahuas faltered. I looked at my little girl. Quick, run back to Daddy. As I watched her run off safely towards my husband, I turned my attention back to the Chihuahuas. I remember a long time ago you told me that I would rue the day. Well, now it's your turn to be afraid. We're not scared of you. You might have a black belt, but there are 5 of us and only 1 of you. But despite their bravado, I could smell their fear. You are going to regret ever saying anything nasty to me. Then, before they had a chance to say anything more, I started attacking them. One by one, I destroyed them all. I threw punch after punch and sent them flying through the air with a kick. Eventually, they all lay in a heap on the ground. As they lay there gasping, the wind knocked out of them. I strolled over and whispered very quietly, "You will never come near me or my family ever again. Do you understand?" They just laid there staring at me. I said, "Do you understand?" Yes. I walked back over to where my husband was sitting with our 2 children. Everything okay, darling? Everything is perfect. Don't worry, we won't be hearing from them ever again.